right, welcome to the third and final game of the evening, and indeed the first one to have actual video game footage in a good few weeks here. In Darkenstein 3D. Darkenstein 3D is a retro shooter inspired by the classics like Wolfenstein and Doom, but especially Wolfenstein. More on that in a bit. Think of it as a tribute, a love letter to the games that defined a generation, with a few modern touches of my own. It's tough, fast, and demands skill, just the way these old school shooters did. I like how this description has to describe this game as if people don't know what boomer shooters are. And indeed, that kind of plays into where I am on this review. Though before I get into all that, I will say it is nice to have another game that is not afraid to say Nazis are bad. I really should never have to say that statement, but, I look at the world as it is, and that's something I had to fucking quantify. I'm like, Nazis are bad.
Yes.
Wanting the Nazis, especially the Nazis of World War II, be dead is not a controversial position. Mm-hmm. And if you hold controversy over that, yes, you may be one of the baddies.
Also, bye.
Yes. Once again, I don't feel like this is a controversial opinion to reach. That being said, Darkenstein 3D falls into the realm of what TV tropes like to describe as stupid jetpack Hitler. I don't know if they've updated that trope name or not, but that's when we get a plot where, we get the wacky supernatural Nazis. Less perpetuating the worst horrors that mankind has ever seen, and more delving into their fascination with the occult actually made real. I'm honestly not sure how I feel about that. Because while, yes, that is actually a facet of the Nazi Party of, historical record, it's also shit that didn't happen because it's all fictional. Whereas the crime that the Nazi Party did was very real. And indeed, that's what made them stock villains for the rest of the 20th century and a good chunk of the 21st century.
Yeah.
Even as back as, say, 20 years ago, we had movies like the original Hellboy using Nazis as a stock villain in this situation. Very fantastical occult. We're going to raise the dead. We're going to control demons. And that's the tack that this game is taking as well. Which is, okay, fine for, I suppose, a run-and-gun boomer shooter. But it can be something that, offends people on the other side. That is to say, people who feel like the Nazis not being taken seriously, is one of the reasons why we're here at this point. I'm not sure how much validity there is into that argument, but I can sort of see where they're coming from. I think that's something the individual player is going to have to work out on their own. That being said, yeah, this game is about as standard a boomer shooter as you can get in the modern day. Like, you run, you gun. Um, Getting back to the Wolfenstein 3D influence, that's not just in the fact that you are fighting Nazis, and they do make reference to Wolfenstein lore. Like, you play as the drunk officially, but he'll call himself like DJ Drunkowitz. They play off of Wolfenstein protagonist BJ Blackowitz.
Blaskowitz, yeah. There is
Yeah, but
also the whole, in the opening cinematic, get psyched.
yes, yes. But most frustratingly, it takes the level design from Wolfenstein 3D.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
here's the thing. I don't think Wolfenstein 3D's levels have aged well.
No, they have not. I tried playing Wolfenstein 3D a while back, and yeah.
I will say it's not as bad as Wolfenstein 3D because at least this game is far enough along where, you have different environments and such in the levels, as opposed to, oh dear God, it's more fucking wall.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially if you were trying to 100% Wolfenstein 3D. Oh God, did that get repetitive? And that complaint applies to this game. Like, after a while, I was just getting tired of the level design being all right angles all the time.
In fairness, those are much easier to plot.
Yes.
Which was a significant issue back when they were making the old Wolfenstein 3s.
Yeah. And much like Wolfenstein 3D, the levels here are very spindly and maze-like. Not as maze-like as System Shock, but I won't lie and say that was kind of a burnout factor here when I'm going through a lot of maze-like structures on top of going through a lot of maze-like structures. But yeah, it's not 100% Wolfenstein 3D. Like, you got Duke Nukem's Mighty Boot here, which operates in conjunction with a lot of Unity games and the like, where you break apart objects, but they have actual physics behind it. Because I'm not sure you cannot do that in Unity, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I wish that the physics objects would disappear quicker, because they block your vision for a while.
Yeah, and apparently this game is also subject to a lot of performance issues. I didn't encounter any of them. Thank you, upgraded PC or laptop. But it is something to keep in mind. But yeah, it's like, honestly, the key thing I think that held this game back is the level design. And I suppose what this game is doing has its proponents. Also, the other thing that really steved me were the enemies. Specifically, the actual Nazis. Because for some reason, they're fucking bullet sponges.
I mean,
like,
unless you dome them, but...
There's a switch somewhere.
Right, but like, if you just shoot them, they take a stunning amount of bullets to kill. And that kind of plays into the monotony of this game. Like, basic grunts should not be bullet sponges. Like, look at this guy. Like, why is he taking so many bullets?
A couple of those were just me missing, to be fair.
Right, but it just got dull after a certain amount of time. On the other hand, I kind of saw where they were coming from in making like the Nazi grunts a threat, but they were doing it in very cheap ways. Because last time I checked, making your enemies bullet sponges is generally considered to be poor game design.
Yeah. It doesn't help with finesse, basically.
Yeah. And the other big problem here is in the color schemes. But I suppose that goes, like, I'm kind of two minds of this. On the one hand, like, it can be hard to kill these people because you can't see them. One, because it's a lot of grays and browns, a lot of earth tones, and the Nazi uniforms blend into the background.
Not just the uniforms, just there being the undead, like, gray skin and stuff.
And it's also doing that fucking pixelization effect that I complained about in the System Shock remake.
Mm-hmm.
Like, exact same thing. I've come to the conclusion that I don't like this. I don't like having my vision being purposely obfuscated, even in the name of retro preservation.
Right.
Outside of that, it's a fine FPS game. I suppose another thing to mention is this game engages in checkpoint saves. So much for preserving the letter of the spirit of the old school. We didn't have checkpoint saves in the 90s. At least I don't remember checkpoint. Like, if we did, it was like by the time of Half-Life. Wolfenstein 3D, it was all manual saves all the time.
Yeah, if you didn't save, well, sucks to be you.
Yeah. So this game is operating on, for lack of a better term, a more console-focused approach. That is to say, you have 3 lives, and there are checkpoints. If you die, you go back, like, you see those floating stars, that's a checkpoint. You will go back to that point if you die. You die 3 times, barring finding a 1-up, you have to start the stage over again. I'm not saying that's a bad approach to things, but it is absolutely antithetical to old school boomer shooter design philosophies. Okay, because Wolfenstein, Doom, Quake, all those greats that get name checked, Duke Nukem 3D, they didn't do checkpoint saves. At least not on the PC. Console
on the
version,
PC they did quick save. They did. You can save at any time because this is a PC and it's not hard to do a save state when it's basically just coordinates and a couple of weapon and ammo counters.
Right. Like I said, that what Darkenstein is doing here, it's very modern. Once again, that's not a saying this is bad necessarily, but it is against what this game is going for. And I'm not exactly sure what the rationale is here. Once again, that's the kind of thing we have to ask the devs. Should they ever come on our programs. And this game also does boss encounters. And they play out, I got to the first boss, and it was this weird pyramid. It played out like kind of a console boss. You know, I had to shoot the top of the pyramid, and then 2 other fuck you lights showed up. You know, blow those up. You know, go back to the other fuck me light. And done and dusted. You know, it's fine. Just it would have been out of place in a 90s FPS, is what I'm saying. Unless that FPS was like Quake. And even then, they didn't go that hard in this kind of puzzle element. So, you know, there were limits to the level of homage this game was willing to participate in. But I think the key factor in my ultimate judgment of this game comes down to the price. And that is free. This game, at least in the state it's in now, I don't know if this game, like, it's not going for the modern day shareware model, for, once again, a lack of better terminology. That is to say, that, you know, a boomer shooter comes out in early access with 1 episode with more promised along the way. And, you know, you pay a nominal fee for that, and then, you know, you'll get the rest of the content as it comes out. No, this seems to be doing it more like how 90s shareware did it.
Where you get the base of the game and then...
Yeah. Well, here's what I've been able to suss out. The current amount of game, 13 levels, is available for free. And this game bills itself as free to start, which is a weird bit of phrasing because that's some mobile gacha game terminology.
I think Nintendo coined free to start.
Still for their mobile games.
Mostly, yeah. In fairness, Nintendo doesn't tend to make a lot of PC games.
And I believe the devs have said that they, that they are going to roll out paid content in the future. We are now looking at a longer-lived game with more content to come. DLCs will not be bite-sized and will not nickel and dime you. A first, smaller expansion will be released so that you can, if you want, support the dev, since the game is free. After that, I'll keep building longer story expansions with hopefully a few more people joining the project. These DLCs will carry the story of the hobo guy and Gunther, the dog that's been kidnapped, into new chapters for you to experience. And I think that might be paid DLCs, not exactly sure here. But, like, it sounds like the old school episode structure. You know, so what we got here is free, and it sounds like the first expansion will be free with the optional payment attached. I've seen that with other games before. So it's hard to say what the future roadmap is going to be, but we're not here to judge the game on potential future merits here. We're here to judge the game as it is at this moment in time. And I think this game is very much worth a download. Now, if it was a paid project, it would, like, maybe if this game were, like, I'd say this game would be worth up to $10. The problem is there are just so many other boomer shooters out there. And I could probably spend a good 5 minutes going over boomer shooters that are better than this game.
I made a mention of the mouse profile I was using in the pre-show for this, and it's literally called Ultra Kill because it's the profile I used when I was playing the game. Ultra Kill. It's another boomer shooter in this vein that is available now.
Once again, that I think is something that's really working against this game, because going all in on the Wolfenstein 3D parodies aside, this is just another boomer shooter.
Mm-hmm.
And the field is littered with these things. And not just like a dime a dozen, like really good stuff.
Yeah.
From your Dusks to your turbo overkills.
And not to mention many of the classics, if you don't already have them, they regularly go on sale for stupid cheap.
Well, not just that, but they're getting remastered on the regular by Night Dive. I'm like, Night Dive has another one of these coming out in about a month here at time of recording.
Yeah,
they actually
and like for modern equivalents, New Blood basically has this shit on lock.
I wouldn't go that far, but once again, if not New Blood, then not like Apogee, 3D Realms. Well, 3D Realms is a bit hit and miss.
Yeah, classic 3D Realms, yes.
But the point is, we're not hurting for this kind of game.
It's not as enigmatic as the roguelike or the card-based, the roguelike deck builder or what have you.
Yeah.
But you definitely have enough to keep you going.
Yeah. I will say, I like this game better than another boomer shooter we reviewed a couple years ago in Kerr.
Yeah.
But once again, I could name like 50 boomer shooters that are better than this.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, it's completely free. So you don't have to put a red cent towards it. The only thing you can buy at time of recording is the soundtrack. The soundtrack is, once again, pretty typical modern boomer shooter stuff, like a lot of adrenaline pumping. I had to check to see if Andrew Holshot did the soundtrack, and surprisingly, he didn't.
And this is probably another one of those more support the devs soundtrack purchases, and not like, I want to buy this because I love this music. Yeah, the soundtrack's $10. Not sure if this thing is $10 good in terms of its soundtrack. I think I bought the soundtrack on sale. That being said, it's a very much a worthwhile investment for free. As far as the paid DLC, we'll see if we end up reviewing those. I'm like, but this is a perfectly fine game at a more than reasonable cost. So get going on downloading today is basically where I stand. And then after that, go and buy, say, Ultra Kill. Yep, Ultra Kill, Dusk.
Once again, we could be here all day.
Yeah.
Dread Templar, Cultic. I actually interviewed the dev of that one. Point is, it's a saturated market, and I think going for free was the right move.
Yes.
So I think that'll about do it for this installment of the Fragments of Siliocn reviews. Coming up on the week ahead, on Wednesday, November 12th, we'll be welcoming Lady Data of Goth Donut Games. And we will be talking about their upcoming project, Lady Dracula. An evolution of the classic Vania genre. I do want to specify, classic Vania refers to like Castlevania's 1 to 4 bloodlines and Rondo of Blood.
It means mostly linear, not really exploratory, just you're trying to get through the levels.
The Vania, not the Metroid.
Well, no.
Well, the Metroidvanias were originally Castlevanias that had the Metroid non-linearity and mobility upgrade stuff going on.
Yeah. Anyway, an evolution of the classic Vania genre and a return to the glory days of precision platforming, retro challenge, and gothic atmosphere. Transform yourself into a wraith, a spider, and a bat to fly, climb, and blast your way across Transylvania to do battle with Lady Dracula at her castle keep. And you know what? I'm looking forward to this. Like, I know there's been a few classic Vania homages out there, but certainly not the ultra saturation we get from Metroidvanias. Although, admittedly, Castlevania influenced Metroidvanias are a far sight rarer than Metroid inspired Metroidvanias.
And amusingly, the biggest competition, the thing to stand up to here probably is actually the side-scrolling linear blood-stained games, which were generally quite well received, to my knowledge.
Yeah, Curse of the Moon, if I'm remembering correctly. Anyway, that's coming up on Wednesday, alongside a new episode of Moonhawk Studios Presents. No Friday show this week. We had one planned, but Petty had a thing to do, and I got delayed a week. So, until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.